Public notice website and open records portal. And we have Dylan Mace with us. He's the open records portal administrator. He recently came to the Utah State Archives from the University of Utah, where he was a program assistant for general education, and he has a master's degree in environmental humanities. So we'll turn the time over to him.
Hello. Now it's not quite so recent that I came from the University of Utah. I've been at the archive now for 3.5 years, but I did just start working on the public notice website. Glenn retired in February, March, and I was unceremoniously dumped into that. So I've been playing catch up, and I'm not sure. Are people able to hear and see me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so I've been playing catch up, figuring out what I'm doing in the public notice website. So a lot of the stuff on the public notice website, it's going to be kind of slow and tedious and dense because that's what much of public notice website is. So I've been learning so that I can help people. So if you've called me in the last few months, you got the inept Dylan. Hopefully I'm more competent now. So I'm going to share my screen and go into the presentation. And I know that Heidi Steed, she was supposed to be joining us. She actually doesn't have anything to do with the Open Records portal or the public notice website. We thought it would be a good idea in case there were any questions about records management. But then she had another obligation come up. So I've got contact information for her at the end of the presentation, but she will not be here to present. Okay, Utah's transparency websites. The concept behind the transparency section of the Utah State Archive is that we are all doing the service of the people. And so all of our information, with a few exceptions, is something for the public. And so to ease that, we have both the public notice website and the open records portal. I'm going to talk a little bit about the public notice website, just kind of the basic fundamentals of that, and then some updates, because we've had 2 fairly large updates this year that you may or may not be aware of. So I'll go over those as well, and then I'll finish off with the open records portal. So the public notice website. The state, its agencies, and political subdivisions exist to conduct the people's business. It's the intent of the legislature that they will take their actions openly and conduct deliberations openly. So that's really the whole purpose of the public notice website, to facilitate that. And we're going to go over a bunch of definitions because you can't talk about something unless you know what everybody else is talking about. So meeting means the convening of a public body or a specified body with a quorum present, including a workshop or an executive session, whether in person or by means of electronic communications, for the purpose of discussing, receiving comments from the public about, or acting upon a matter over which the public body or specific body has jurisdiction or advisory power. Meeting does not mean a chance gathering or a social gathering. Public body means any administrative, advisory, executive, or legislative body of the state or its political subdivisions that is created by the Utah Constitution, statute, rule, ordinance, or resolution. It consists of 2 or more persons, expends, disperses, or is supported in whole or part by tax revenue, and is vested with authority to make decisions about the public's business. Specified body means an administrative, advisory, executive, or legislative body that is not a public body. It consists of 3 or more members and includes at least 1 member who is a legislator, officially appointed to the body by the President of the Senate, Speaker, or the House of Representatives, or Governor, and does not include the body listed in subsection 9C, section 3, or 9C 5. The presiding officer of each public body ensures that the public body receives annual training on the requirements of the Open and Public Meetings Act. This training does not provide that. So this is other training. A public body shall give not less than 24 hours public notice of each meeting. A specified body shall give not less than 24 hours public notice of each meeting that the specified body holds on the Capitol Hill complex. The public notice required under the subsection 1A shall include the meeting agenda, date, time, and place. The Open and Public Meetings Act requires that a body give at least 24 hours notice for public meetings. Other public notices are subject to many mandates or statutes dictating the type of information they must contain and their timing. Additionally, a body may have its own administrative rules governing the criteria, content, or timing of a public notice. Mandates not only dictate when public notice must be provided before public action, but they also provide for how long notice must be posted. To be sure public notices are posted in a timely manner, it is recommended public notices be posted 2 days prior to their legal mandates. This will ensure that if the poster encounters any technical difficulties, they can be resolved prior to the statutory compliance date. In addition to the requirements under subsection 1, a public body which holds regular meetings that are scheduled in advance over the course of a year shall give public notice at least once each year of its annual meeting schedule as provided in section B. The public notice under subsection...
What'd you do?
Oh, now I can't. Oh.
The public notice under subsection 2A shall specify the date, time, and place of the scheduled meetings. A public body or specified body satisfies a requirement for public notice by posting written notice at the principal office of the public body or specified body, or if no principal office exists, at the building where the meeting is to be held, and on the Utah Public Notice website created under subsection 63F1701. And providing notice to at least one newspaper of general circulation within the geographic jurisdiction of the public body, or a local media correspondent. A public body or specified body is in compliance with the provision of a record by individual member of each vote taken by the public body, the name of each person who is not a member of the public body, and after being recognized by the presiding member of the public, provided testimony or comments to the public body. The substance, in brief, of the testimony or comments provided by the public under section 2A5 and 7, and any other information that is recorded of the proceedings of the meeting that any member requests be entered in the minutes or recording. A public body may satisfy the requirements under subsection 2A3 or 6 that minutes include the substance of matters proposed, discussed, or decided, or the substance of testimony or comments by maintaining a publicly available online version of the minutes that provides a link to the meeting recording at the place in the recording where the matter is proposed, discussed, or decided, or the testimony or comments provided. A recording of an open meeting shall be a complete and unedited record of all open portions of the meeting from the commencement of the meeting through the adjournment of the meeting, and be properly labeled or identified with the date, time, place of the meeting. Independent recordings made by attendees is permitted if recording does not interfere with the conduct of the meeting. I would just point out that there has been, what is it? I believe a 300 megabyte. I mention it later in my notes. There's a limit on the size of things that you can post on the public notice website. And so I've heard questions about, is it an unedited version if you cut it into pieces? Yes, it still counts as that, so long as you're not chopping pieces off that you are not sharing there. So long as those
Dylan?
are,
Dylan,
yes,
we have
yes.
a question in the chat. It
Mhm.
says, if mayor or council calls a meeting a day before, is getting it on the public notice website, posted at City Hall and on the city's website sufficient? There would not be enough time to get it into the newspaper.
So Dylan, the question's in the chat. I can read it. If mayor
Yes, please.
meeting a day before, is getting it on the public notice website, posted at City Hall and on the city's website sufficient? There would not be enough time to get it in the newspaper.
There are emergency situations where that is acceptable. It's just, you don't want to make that a habit, because I was talking to somebody the other day and they had a lot of questions about an entity that none of you are a member of, because it had nothing to do with clerks or anything. But they felt that there was a lot of inconsistency and kind of odd ways that things were being done. And they said, my assumption is that this person just doesn't know what they're doing, but there are enough mistakes that I start to worry that it's something intentional that they're trying to hide. And really, that's the last thing we want to do, is make people in the public think that we're up to some sort of shenanigans. We really are just trying to do the public service, and we shouldn't leave any doubt of that. But yeah, if it is an emergency meeting, then
it doesn't have to be noticed in the newspaper. You just have to let the newspaper be aware. So I think that
right,
it's fine, because the question is, does it have to be in the newspaper?
No, it doesn't have to be in the newspaper. And there are times where the newspaper just doesn't do anything with the information you give them. So you can't be held accountable for someone else not doing it. Were there any other questions?
Yeah, there's one more here. If the meeting takes a recess, can you cut out the audio of that recess time?
Yes, I briefly, while we were getting a new person for the State Records Committee, covered for that. And so long as I paused the meeting recording during the recess, everything was kosher. So that was fine. Just pause it or if you do record it, you can cut that out, because that's not actually the meeting. Okay. I'm trying to figure out where I was. And I guess it's just the approved minutes again. So I'll go to the pending minutes. Pending minutes, approved minutes, and a recording of a public meeting are public records. And pending minutes shall contain a clear indication that the public body has not yet approved the minutes, or that the minutes are subject to change until the public body approves them. A state public body and a specified local public body shall require an individual who, at an open meeting of the public body, publicly presents or provides electronic information relating to an item on the public body's meeting agenda, to provide the public body at the time of the meeting an electronic or hard copy of the electronic information for inclusion in the public record. A state public body shall make pending minutes available to the public within 30 days after holding the open meeting that is the subject of the pending minutes, within 3 business days after their approving written minutes of an open meeting. And the written minutes or recording of an open meeting that are required to be retained permanently shall be maintained in or converted to a format that meets long-term record storage requirements. And I'll touch on that a little bit in a few minutes, because I know there are some questions pertaining to that just talk about them. So all of the same minute keeping and record maintenance requirements apply, except that the records of closed meetings are protected under GRAMA and public access is not provided. So make sure you make a record of the closed sections of the meetings, but those do not need to be posted on the public notice website. The Utah Public Notice website is administered by the Division of Archives and Record Services. The website is provided to assist the public find posted public information, public notices, minutes, and audio recordings. And it exists to allow a public body to easily post public information and contact information, allow the public to search for public information by name of public body, date of posting, meeting or deadline, or other criteria. Allow public to search and view archived public information. Allow a person to subscribe to receive updates and notices associated with the public body. Be easily accessible from utah.gov. Have a unique and simple website address, and include other links and functionality that will assist the public in obtaining, reviewing the public information posted on the website.
Dylan,
Yes.
we've had a question come up in the chat again. Could you please clarify, do we need to post pending minutes on the public notice website?
There are exceptions, and it's, as I understand it, cities and towns should post their pending minutes as soon as possible. I don't recall that there is a specific time in which that is necessary. There are some other entities where they don't need to post the pending minutes. So like I said a little bit ago, I am still not quite up to speed on everything that I should know about the public notice website, but I'm a lot better than I was in March and April. The timing for posting and the content of the public information posted to the website shall be the responsibility of the public body and other entity posting to the public information. Sometimes, on rare occasion, I can get information posted for you if you're coming up on a time limit and there's some kind of crisis. Obviously, I don't want to do that for everyone in the state because I'm one person and I can't do everything. But really, if you are coming up to a problem like that, email me or call me and I can help you out with that. As mentioned previously, the Utah State Archives is assigned to administer the Utah Public Notice website. The Utah State Archives has no oversight responsibility or enforcement authority. We do not monitor compliance. We are not attorneys. Our interpretation of the law isn't better than that of you or your attorney. So yeah, to kind of, I'm more a technician than a lawyer. If I was a lawyer, I would make more money. But I am happy to help you work through what OPMA says and everything. But really, at the end of the day, I would talk to your city or town attorney because they're the authority at the end of the day.
Dylan,
Yes.
I have a question about the public notice website
Okay.
because I'm an end user. You know, when you're going to pick your topic of what your meeting's about and there's that drop down list.
That's a monster. Yes.
Okay. It's humongous. And I would say 75% of it never gets used for cities anyway.
I would agree.
And how would we, if we wanted to add an item onto that drop-down list, how would we go about doing that?
So the company that developed the public notice website over a decade ago, Utah Interactive, they've now changed their name to NIC. I'm working with them to hopefully do a really massive change update. I'll talk a little bit more specifically about that later, but it falls on them to edit that information. I've asked them to change a couple of things in it in the past, and it's not something that happens right away. I mean, I asked them to make the change and they were finally able to do it as part of a major error fix and just kind of upgrade of things that were out of date about 4 months later. And I don't have a specific cycle at which those occur. It's just sort of a when they can get to it, when other state government entities are not using their services in like rolling out a new program or something. So it's kind of a, sometimes it happens. Sometimes we have to wait longer situation. I've got a plan to do a big upgrade. It was supposed to be taking place right now. We were given some money earlier, the earlier legislative session, but then when tax revenue seemed to be dipping quite a bit, the revenue got pulled back from that. So now we're requesting the revenue again, so we can do some pretty big upgrades and changes. And that box is something that I desperately want to make some changes in, because I think there's something like 800 things in that list. And like you said, a lot of them are never used. And really, I would like to make it a free fill area where you could just type whatever the meeting was about. Are there any other questions about that? I know that was a non-answer answer, but really I'm just working toward getting something better. Okay. So my job is pretty much to create new UPNW accounts. And if you have a Utah ID, then just make sure you use the same email address for the Utah ID as you have in the public notice website. I fairly often have to work with the Department of Technology Services to change someone's ID in one place or another to make everything work. Do my best to orient new users, and we actually have a quick guide that is really pretty good at that. And we can do in-depth training. That's I've not done that because I've been in quarantine for as long as I've had this job. But one, we can do it online, or someday maybe I'll be able to do it in person again. And then, like I mentioned, the manual, the quick guide, we also have some other stuff that is useful. So if you have any questions, let me know and I'll do my best to help you or your new coworkers out with that. And I'm sure you're all aware of what the public notice website looks like. And this is pretty redundant. You know all this also. So like I mentioned earlier, we've had a couple of updates this year. One happened this spring. Another one happened, a week and a half ago, I think. So you may or may not have heard about or noticed some of those improvements. So I'll just go through and point them out. Hopefully these are useful for you. We have an enhanced search feature, which allows searching for an agency by name, eliminating the need of knowing agency hierarchy. However, many entities have entered their agency simply as city council instead of city name city council. So if you have an agency like this, please change its name so that it can be found by the public more easily. I'm just gonna pick on Delta because my family's from Millard County. I love Delta, but I would like them to do a little bit of change here. So I went in to the public notice website as if I was a public user and typed in Delta City Council, and I didn't get anything. So I suspected that when they were setting up their bodies in the entity, it named them City Council rather than Delta City Council. There are no rules about this, but it will help the public find what they're looking for if the owner of the entity just adds the entity name as part of the body name. So rather than saying City Council, just put the name of your city or town before that, and that helps the public find it more easily. For a long time, users of the public notice website have, I can't talk this long. So previously, it only loaded the last 6 months. And that confused a lot of people because they'd go on. Sometimes there was an entity that only had yearly or twice yearly meetings, and nothing would come up. And they'd get frustrated and claim that somebody wasn't doing their job. But it was really the public notice website that wasn't billing. So now there's a pretty obvious tab down there at the bottom that says load older notices. And they will hopefully click that and see all of the older notices show up. And there it is, pointed out with the big red arrow. And we can now, the administrator can now move entire bodies to new entities. I don't know how often this might apply to cities and towns, but sometimes a body would move from one agency to another, especially on the state level. So now that can just be moved, and the notices can also be moved from body to body. And it used to be quite the ordeal to get that all changed, I am told. So I believe the owner can do this. If you're a poster and unable to do that, let me know and I'll take care of it for you. This one is a big one because it was a source of universal frustration because you'd be putting in your minutes or what have you, and it would kick you out. So they increased the security timeout to 15 minutes, and no one has complained to me since I started. So I think that must have been a pretty effective change. And this one actually, they made the change and then DTS made a change and it screwed it up. So they actually just fixed this again. So whenever you go in and make a change to a notice, anyone who is a subscriber will get an email about the changes that have been made. This one has caused some consternation. There was always a 200 megabyte limit on the public notice website. It just wasn't enforced. And the reason it is now enforced is that some really gigantic files were being uploaded over a gig sometimes, and it was filling up storage and preventing the system from functioning. So if you need to post a really big file, you can post it on your entity website, then provide a link on the public notice website, or break up the recording and post it in pieces smaller than 200 megabytes. And when I say 200 megabytes, sometimes somebody cuts it into like 197 megabytes, but there's something that still the system is recording that as 200 megabytes. So maybe a little less than 200 is still an area that you need to be aware of. And we now allow apostrophes. Something else I've noticed in my brief tenure as the administrator of the public notice website if you routinely are receiving those error messages about the symbols you're using are not allowed by the website, if you have a really old notice that you just keep updating information into, and then putting that into the public notice website, I was talking to the guys at NIC, and there are errors that accumulate just naturally through time in those documents. It's sort of like, I don't know, like genetics. Through time, there are mutations, and through time, there are mutations in the posts. And so we can't see the errors that are going on in there, but when you try to upload it onto the public notice website, it sees those. So if you just start a new notice with new information, that usually takes care of it.
Okay, Dylan?
Uh-huh.
Okay, on when you guys do like updates or upgrades or whatever, that's usually when a problem kind of arises.
Yes.
Like this everything. Can we ask that if you guys are going to do that, would you let us know? Can you guys like do an email blast or let us know so we can do an email blast so that at least the clerks and recorders are aware? So, just a better line of communication would be great.
Yeah, I really like that idea, because if it's going to be down, then you guys need to know about it. If things are going to change, you need to know about it. This last one, when they made the change, pretty much all of us have the link to the public notice website cached in our systems. And so there was a minor change in that. So after they did the update, it was going to the cache that didn't exist anymore. And so I had to tell a bunch of people to clear their caches so that they could then go into the public notice website. And obviously that would have made all of our jobs easier if I had sent out an email warning everybody that it was about to happen. So yeah, that's definitely something that I'll work to improve on.
Thank you. We totally
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
I don't know how much this helps you guys. It helps me immensely. The owner search is now available for the administrative users to find the owner of the entity. I guess that will help you. I know it makes me happy. So had a few login issues, and this is usually somebody who, in my experience, it's somebody who also does notices for another entity, and there are just some confusions that arise from that. Enter your email address, not your username, and the Utah ID password. Password managers are convenient. Fields are auto-filled, so a user doesn't have to remember the password as long as you have access to your computer. But if your computer is replaced, you will have to update your password if you can't remember it. And problems with Utah ID password should be directed to the help desk at the Utah Department of Technology Services. And their number, in case you want to write it down, is 801-538-5779. And technical problems will go to Utah Interactive. If the system's down, it's either DTS or Utah Interactive /NIC that needs to fix that. And their number is 801-983-0275.
Dylan,
Uh-huh.
in the chat, someone asked, the public notice website is down right now if they go in to do a search as a citizen. Do you have any idea when it will be back up?
I think that might be the issue that I just mentioned a second ago with the cache. The cookies in your system bring you to a website that has been slightly modified, and so when your computer goes to it, it doesn't quite recognize it. The state archivist and I were talking about this a couple days ago. he actually had to clear his cache and reboot his computer because he was having issues seeing it. But as soon as he did that, it came up. I've also been recommending that people use a different browser to access it. That's worked for a couple of people. But really, it's just those old cookies are screwing things up. So if you delete those, then it should load correctly. But if it is down, I will check on that afterward and make sure that all the proper people are notified.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Approved meeting minutes are not posted separately. Minutes are attached to the corresponding notice. January meeting minutes are approved at the February meeting, but are attached to the January meeting notice. And please do not create separate notices solely for minutes. Create one body for notices and a separate body for minutes. Solely link to minutes which have been posted in an agency website. So don't do that stuff, just put it all in the original notice. This is kind of a big question. Currently, the short answer is no. Everything that has been uploaded to the public notice website is still available. They had to take some of it off because of the space issues that I alluded to a minute ago. And so if you or a member of the public need to access those, we can contact NIC and they can pull that information for you. But it's not necessarily transferred to the state archive. We don't have any checksums on that, making sure that the files are not corrupted. And so it's not archived. So now I'm going to talk about the Open Records portal. And the Open Records portal continues to see pretty impressive growth. I've been here for 3.5 years, and each of those years, its usage has increased by about 175%. So members of the public are continuing to use it, and new people are finding it and using it. Right now, we're at about, what is that, about 95% of last year's total. So the last 3 months of the year will just be, whatever percentage over last year's number. I really like the concept of the Open Records portal. There are some issues that frustrate me, and sorry, I'm working from home and my dog is now going to bark. Apologies. So here's just the basics of what, yes. So the department shall, in consultation with the board, that's the Transparency Board, and as time and funding allows, we have the executive agencies of the state, the school districts, charter schools, public transit districts, which are really special service districts, but specifically they wanted to get UTA on there before those special service districts, counties, municipalities, and local districts and special service districts. And we also provide link capabilities to other existing repositories of public information, including maps, photograph collections, legislatively required reports, election data, statutes, rules, regulations, and local ordinances that exist on other agency and political subdivision sites. That last section, section D, funding-wise, we haven't really been able to get to that part yet. So I'll talk a little bit about my hopes and dreams for that when I'm done talking about the more general Open Records portal. So I don't know how many of you are using the Open Records portal on a day-to-day basis. Login is sort of similar to the public notice website. Use your Utah ID. And to view your records, click on the dashboard. You can also do the training up there and view the requests down here. And one of the most frustrating things for me personally is that if a record request is closed, it automatically goes off of this screen. So you need to go click on the advanced search tab on the right-hand side. It's blue letters. And then that will allow you to choose closed responses. So here are the sections of a request as they appear in the Open Records portal. You can print the request, and if you're going to respond to the request outside of the portal, print the request first, and then make sure you click on the tab that says respond outside of the portal, because it'll automatically send out a denial notice after 10 days if you forget to do that, but even if you've responded outside the portal. You can see all of the request portions and select which portion of the request to view and respond to, because sometimes there are separate sections of a request. You can also change the records officer. In some entities, there are multiple records officers. And so if one person's in charge of a different section, the main records officer can assign the request to them. They can also divide the request into parts. And this is, I figure, a good part to mention, that if a person sends a request that has 10 different sections of the request, it's not the exact same thing. You can actually break that into 10 requests. And so that's a really important thing to remember. If you're drowning in record requests and somebody sends you a 25-part request, you can break that down into 25 separate requests, and the 10 days starts with each subsequent part. So keep that in your pocket. That'll be useful. And then in this bottom section is where you can approve or deny. On occasion, you can claim extraordinary circumstances. If the request is so voluminous, you can tell them that it will take some extra time. You can refer it to a different agency. You can deny it if it doesn't exist. And you can also contact the requester, add notes about it. These are sometimes useful. I get a fair number of questions from both people within the agency wondering what happened because they thought they were working on a record, but then it disappeared. So they call me and I can look at the notes and say, oh, so-and-so in your office took care of this. Or somebody in the public wants to know what's going on with their record request. I can look and see whether it's had a claim of extraordinary circumstances, if it's being responded to outside of the portal, and that way I can help them and hopefully keep them from needing to call you.
Dylan,
Yes.
you have another question. Can the notice email that's sent out contain a link to the login webpage, please?
A link to the login webpage.
Could you,
Pardon?
could that be added?
Yes. So when I get to the end of my presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about what our plans are for these two systems. And what I really want to do is when we do these big updates, I want as much input from the community of people who use it, especially the people who are records officers, to tell me what is missing. Because legally, we can't ignore this. We can't choose not to use the portal. And so if you have to use it, I would like it to be as useful and beneficial for everyone as possible.
Thank you. That'd be awesome.
You're welcome. So when approving a request, click approve, enter the note about the approved records. This part really frustrates me because we can only do 30 megabyte files, which it doesn't take very long to fill that up. So one of the things I'd like to do is change that, but currently that's not an option for me. And then once you click approve, an email is sent to the person who made the record request. When denying a request, if you've broken it into sections, select the portion that you're denying, click deny, and enter the reason for the denial. And enter the CAO's contact information if it didn't auto-populate. Most of those should auto-populate, but if the CAO has left and we've taken them out of the system, then that won't fill. And also, if they have left but we haven't been informed, that'll pull up the old incorrect information. So if there are changes in your office, just let us know. Either I or somebody in the records information management section can do that. And then at the end of that, the email will be sent to the requester. If a request is not for your agency, select the request portion that doesn't pertain to you and refer them. I recently found out that you can refer to someone who's not in your agency. I didn't think that was possible, and it kind of isn't, because they get the notice that they've had a referral, but they can't see it, and then they contact me. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that right now. Right now, I've just been printing off a PDF of the request and sending it to them, and then marking it as responded to outside of the portal. But I would like something better than that. But if that happens to you, give me a call or an email, and I'll help you out with it. And claiming extraordinary circumstances. Click the section, click extraordinary circumstances, and what type. You have to have a type of extraordinary circumstance. It's not just because, man, it's really busy in the office right now and I can't keep up. Sadly, legally, that's not a reason. But if they're asking for like 800 pages of records that are housed in several different files, that would definitely count as an extraordinary circumstance. And then click complete. So sometimes part of a request is approvable, and part of it you can deny or you need to deny. And so once again, divide it and then go in and just add the request and take care of it that way. And for item fees, I have to admit that I'm fairly vague about this myself. And in my experience, most of the people who do fees ask that the person come to the office and write a check or send a check, and then they'll send the records or give them to you in person. You can add a fee in the open records portal, but you can't collect a fee. And so that pretty much limits its usefulness. You can also add hourly fees, but like I said, you can't collect the fees. So, and then uploading a file. On occasion, I see actually members of the public who are making the record requests upload files, but it's really hard to find. So you've got to go down there to the bottom of the screen on the right-hand side and click other, and then it's like you have to click several layers through, and it is only a 30 megabyte limit. So that is or is not useful. Like I mentioned before, you can't really opt out of the Open Records portal. The way the law is written is that the Open Records portal will serve as a point of access for government records access and management requests. And since it's a point of access, I mean, by law, an email, even a tweet could potentially be considered a record request. And so especially the Open Records portal, that is a record request and you have to respond to it as a record, but you don't have to respond to it through the Open Records portal. That's just restating what I just said. When does the time limit start? So it starts when you open it. Well, there are two different clocks that start. If you never open it, it's 10 business days after it was submitted. So if you were to wait 9 days and then click on the record request, you have another 10 business days before that's due. And as I mentioned before, there are reasons why you could change that and give yourself extra time as well. And I knew I would not be able to talk for an hour and a half. So if you have more questions, you can either ask them in the chat right now or email me at dylanmace, DYLANMACE @utah.gov, or call my phone at 801-531-3853. And Heidi Steed wanted me to let you know that if you have any questions about managing your city records, to reach out to her. And she's just hsteed@utah.gov. And the phone number is 801-531-3860. Actually, I was saying that I was going to tell you my big plans. That's what I need to talk about still. So the Open Records portal and the public notice website, if you didn't notice, have a lot of overlap. If you want to do a Venn diagram, there's a lot of overlap in those two. And so we were talking to our executive director's office last year, and they're saying, we have two websites that partially do the same thing. And so we would like to combine those. We think it would be better for not just the archives to administer, but also for records officers would only need to use one system. Members of the public would only need to find and use one system. And it would just be beneficial for everyone. And like I mentioned, we had that budgeted and then it was withdrawn. We're working on getting the budget again right now. But we'll definitely be using focus groups on the development of that. We want it to be as effective for you, the users, as possible. So once we get the budget in place, I'll be sending out emails inviting you to either submit ideas for what you would like or to join a focus group on making this a better system, 2 better systems, and then we'll ride off into the sunset happily.
Hey, Dylan,
Yes.
when you're getting ready to put that focus group together, we, the Municipal Clerks Association Board, would love to know when you're going to do that, and we can have some of our members help you out with that. We'd be more than
Yeah, I will definitely take you up on that offer.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So just about run out of water. I'm getting hoarse. If you have any questions, go ahead. And I can't see the chat box, so somebody else will have to.
We've been kind of taking care of the ones that we can answer in the meantime. I think we're good on questions. I don't know, we're just kind of scrolling through them now to make sure we got them all covered.
Okay.
Because they were coming in really fast for a while. That's okay, because there's always going to be questions because like you said, there's 2 different websites. They're very similar in some areas and very far apart in others.
Right.
And
And
not,
when I
go ahead.
Well, when I took the position, I was like, okay, two birds with one stone. When people call and ask if I can set them up with one system, I can get them set up in both systems, and it'll be less work and it'll be great for everyone. I tried that for a couple of weeks. It confused people terribly because there is some crossover, but there's a lot of not crossover also.
Well, that's good. It sounds like we're moving in the right direction.
It is. I'm really excited about the potential for this. It just needs a little better implementation.
Could we just get clarification on which class of cities need to post the audio recordings of the meetings on the public notice website?
Ooh,
Because some of us just post the link that goes to our website. But we're asking, is there a requirement that you actually have to put the actual audio on the website?
no. So I've actually been giving people the advice that often the audio or sometimes even a video, somebody wants to load that and it's just too big. But if you have it on your city's website and you have a link on the public notice website that links to that, so a member of the public can just go onto the public notice website, they want to see or hear that, they click on it, it opens up, everything's fine.
Okay. Let me see if there's any others. I think that's it.
Okay.
Oh, one new message. Hold on. I gotta go to the bottom. We don't post the audio to our website or the public notice website.
Like I said, I'm not.
It can't hurt to put the link if you have it on your city's website. Can't,
Right.
because all it's going to do is cut down on your work to have to talk to another resident or to have to burn a disc for them or whatever. But there are some towns that are small and they don't have the capacity for their own website. So, you got to do the best that you can do.
Right. And OPMA is a deeply confusing law. I've been doing my best to learn it as well as possible for the last 6 months. And I know sections of it really well. I'm a little gray on other areas still. And if a section doesn't make sense, I reread it later and it usually does make sense then because my brain's had some time to digest it. But yeah, I am really always in favor of posting as much as possible because the transparency will help you. If it's online and somebody makes a record request, you just say, "Dear sir or madam, this information can be found here," and you are all done. So that's, when in doubt, make it available.
Okay, Dylan, I think that's all the questions we had.
Great.
So thank you very much.
You're welcome. If you have any other questions, if you think of something later, if I was vague with an answer, just email me and I can give you a better answer if you give me a minute to think about it.
Okay.
I really do spend a lot of time going through both GRAMA and OPMA to give people precise information about a question. So I'll be happy to answer any of those that you feel like I was maybe not as solid as I should have been.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
And do you give permission for us to post your presentation on our website?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.